Okay, hello everybody. Here we are, starting our workshop today. It's advanced studio lighting today. My name is Eric Torres, an instructor here at CAN-TV. Thank you for joining us. And today we're going to be going through an overview of studio lighting, but into a little bit of depth so that you can maybe plan your own show with something more than just the usual basic lighting setup. So there's going to be a lot of fun stuff to look at today. We will walk through it. So let's get started with our studio lighting workshop. Follow me and I'll show you the set. We've set up a lighting setup. These are what we're going to call today our lighting models. Lighting normally should be accomplished within the first hour. That gives you a nice margin of time to actually do your show. Anyway, 3-hour time window is what you've got, and typically an hour for lighting. So how can that happen? An hour is such a short time. Well, obviously planning. It all comes back to phase one of production, pre-production. You've got to plan your production well, and that includes your lighting. Now with lighting, we have a lighting plot that we make available where you can plan your lighting. So your lighting situation is as follows here. You can see the number of instruments we have. It's a pretty good number. The long, skinny ones that are around the edges are your cyc lights or cyclorama lights. And so the beams, as you can see, are pointing towards the curtain. And so those are pretty easy because the ones on the left are all fader 1. The ones in the back are fader 2, and then you got fader 3 on the right. So all those are controlled with one fader. You just have to decide how bright to make them and what color to make them, and maybe in relation to each other how you want to blend them. Then you've got your set in the middle, your risers, that dark gray square rectangle there, and you can see all the other lights are aimed towards that. And your Fresnel lights, the ones with the lenses on the front that are adjustable, have adjustable beams, are the little square ones there. And then you've got Astra lights, which are the long skinny little strips there. Those are arrays of LEDs. Those are LED lights. And so those are your different choices, and there's a few extra things in there. There's some 2 party lights. You can see the party lights are down toward the bottom, lights number 19. You got the party lights, which are like little flashing lights that can be, dazzling your set, just kind of, tickling your set with little flashes of light. We're going to try to get that going. There we go. These are your party lights. So if you've got a show that needs to be a little bit more upbeat, try your party lights. Now we also have an ellipsoidal light, which is number 20. Number 20 is for a cookie. You can make a cookie. I made one for the show. I made it right before the show. It took me less than 10 minutes to cast a pattern on your set. And so your cookie is, we've talked about this in our classes, as you can see, faded up. It's typically, I'll show you in a second, it's made, you can hand make one or you can get one ordered to be made. So there you see, that's the ellipsoidal light that you're looking at there. And the cookie is in a little holder, a slot, in the middle of the light up on the top. And you typically will take the cookie, it's a little metal sheet. You're going to put it in that holder that you see sticking up, and you're going to flip it upside down and backwards because the lenses of the light reverse the image. They reverse it horizontally and vertically. So to do the cookie, you just put it in the slot, stick it in there, adjust the angle of your light, and the beam, as far as how sharp or soft you want it to be, there's all these knobs on the light, and the angle, where it is on your set. We also put a little blue gel in front of the ellipsoidal light. I just taped it on with gaffer's tape. So yeah, our lighting fixtures in here don't have gel holders. They don't have any kind of a rig for that. But it's okay because they're all LED. They're cool lights. They don't get hot. As you can see, there's a blue gel just taped and hanging there in front of the ellipsoidal. So yeah, you can give your lighting a different color, make it a little more interesting. So it's just one of the ways we have of jazzing up your set, making it look more interesting. And that was a quick fix. It took me, like I said, less than 10 minutes to make the cookie. It took me about 5 minutes to put it in a light and adjust it and slap a gel on it. So little things like that can make a big difference. Now, back to planning for a moment. Neutral colors are good. Beige, brown, maybe light orange, green like he's wearing over there. The red's pretty good. So you have to, the lighting is only going to work if the talent is properly prepared. Now, makeup could also be part of that. Sometimes the lights will make you shine. A lot of things can happen. The set is crucial. So you're going to set up your set first, then do your lighting. Now, the way you set up your set, it's going to be in relation to that lighting. And so some of the lights in here all of the lights in here are fixed in position. You can't really move them around. You can tilt them, you can pan them. Some of them you can focus, you can spot them, you can flood them, you can put things in front of them, but you just can't unbolt them and move them around. They're in position. So when I do a set, when I situate my chairs and things, I take the backlights first into first consideration. And a backlight is coming from the back. Backlighting will help you stand out from the background. And so the fellow right here, I'm calling him the host. He's lined up with one of these lights up here. He's square with what we're calling a backlight. Okay, and so that will help him stand out from the background. And so then, not just the position of the backlight, but also what kind of backlight is it? Is it a Fresnel light? Is it an Astrolight? Just to define the terms here, Astrolight is the big square panel with all the little LEDs. It's like an array of LEDs. The Fresnel light is more like a light with a lens on the front that can really focus the light or flood it out. It has much more flexibility, much more adjustability. So typically there's a Fresnel, as you can see, and it's hard to see the lens, but you see the barn doors. The barn doors are the flaps in front. The flaps can be used to narrow the beam, like the area that the light is falling into. So it's like cropping. You're cropping the zone that it's falling into. Now, why is that important? Because if you bring up all the lights, they spill everywhere. The lights, they don't know what you want. They have a mind of their own. And you don't want the light to necessarily spill everywhere. With this set, the idea was to make it kind of upbeat, bright, fairly even lighting. Let's just say this is a talk show, and we want to talk about current topics. We want to talk about, these guys are here to talk about, everything that's going on right now in the country. So it's stormy days, as we can see from the cookie back here. So, it's going to have, the topic is going to have a little edge to it. So therefore, we don't want the light to be too bright and too flat. We want to have a little edge to it. And so the idea is to make the ratio, that's how you control the mood of your show, is the lighting ratio between your main lighting, which is your key lights, and your fill lights. So the key light causes dark shadows on the other side of the face, on the body. Causes dark shadows. And so how dark do you want those shadows to be? That is what I mean by a key to fill ratio. So that relationship. Now, if you want it to be roughly, like I say, a happy, upbeat, bright kind of show, then that key to fill ratio should be roughly 2 to 1. It could be even 3 to 1. In other words, the key light could be twice as bright or 3 times as bright as your fill light that's trying to fill in the shadows. So 2 to 1, 3 to 1 ratio is good for your average kind of talk show. So, some of this was thought of in advance, and some of it was inspired at the moment. That's how it works. You can come up with a plan, but don't be rigid. If it doesn't go totally by your plan, I wouldn't get too upset. Nothing ever does. Nothing ever follows the plan perfectly. So be, flexible. Be willing to make changes, and sometimes they're good changes. They're happy changes. Some of these things that we see right here on the set were just last-minute decisions. And so that's also part of your lighting plan is being a little bit flexible. And plus, you don't know, are these people going to come in wearing the colors that you want them to wear or something totally different? And so you might have to make some adjustments to your colors. And luckily, These LEDs, especially on the side curtains that are lighting up the white side curtain back there, are at the touch of a button, you can change those colors. And so, yeah, control room crew, feel free to change those and show people that if you like. Have fun with that. So there's Andrea. She's going to show us a little bit of some of those changes in the lighting board. First of all, she selected, do you want to explain it, Andrea, or should I explain it?
Yeah, I can explain it. Hi,
Go
guys.
for it. Andrea's going to explain it.
All right, so yeah, here I am in the control room. So
Let's cut to the control
if I
room.
want to adjust the colored lights, the cyc lights, as they're called, they're all on faders 1, 2, 3, and 4, just like on the lighting plot that Eric showed you. And then if I want to change the color of a light, so let's say I want to change number 2, those are the lights that are hitting straight to the back. And so if I select number 2 over here, then I can go over here at the bottom. It might be hard to see on your screen, but I've got a little color wheel here. So if I click on the color wheel, then this shows me a bunch of colors I can choose from. Again, it might be a little too hard for you to see. But I can also go and show and pick any color of the rainbow. So you see right now, just using my finger on the touchpad, I'm scrolling through every color of the rainbow here. And so you can do that on any of the cyc lights. So those are the ones against the wall. The other lights, all the other ones, those, if you want to change the color, then you have to use gels. That's it.
All right, back in the studio here, I want to continue acclimating you to how to approach a lighting setup. So let's say you did your plan, and you've got your game plan. You've got enough people to do it. I would say you need at least 2 people to really effectively do lighting. Today we did all this with 2 people. One person doing the grunt work, climbing up ladders, adjusting lights, putting gels on lights, etc. The other person on the lighting board, as Andrea is. And so what you would want to do is open up your mics. There's 2 overhead mics hanging up here. So on your audio board, you would want to fade those up so that you could be heard in the control room. And then you can ask for certain lights to be brought up. And so you're going to want to have your lighting plot with you. We do have one here at CanTV laminated. You can just refer to it and ask for certain lights to be brought up. Now my strategy is, well, first of all, you don't want to bring cameras out yet because they're going to get in the way. So you want to separate your cameras, spread them out a little bit, but keep them back by the wall so you can get your ladder in and out in those areas that you need them to be. And so, yeah, you're going to start with your key lights. That's how I typically like to work. Everybody who does lighting design, lighting designers and cinematographers, they all have their own approach. So what I'm saying is my approach. This is what I have developed after doing this, for a while. It's a suggestion, but, different people that have good ideas. And so definitely listen to different people on this. But my approach is start by doing your key lighting. So your key lights, why do you want to start? Because the key lights are your main lights. You've got to, and they're the hardest ones to do. They need the most adjustment, the most care. So start with your key lights, get your key lights out of the way. Once the key lights are done, you proceed to your fill lights. The fill light, because the key lights cause dark shadows, and you need to start thinking about how bright do you want those shadows to be, or how dark do you want them to be. So after key lights, you do fill lights. After fill lights, backlights, to make a subject stand out from the background. Now, I don't have a backlight on me right now. We didn't set up a special backlight for me, but all these guys on the set, they do. They all have backlights to make them stand out more, from the background. Because otherwise they could blend into the background. Now, if they have bright yellow hair, then no, they'll still stand out from the background, but a little backlight is even better. It'll really make them, separate them, from the background. Key lights, the rule, most of you, some of you. The rule is, say the talent is looking at a particular camera, and they're going to be that way most of the time. Your key light should not come straight on them because that will flatten them. They'll look like cardboard. Key light should come from a 45-degree angle. It could be from the right side of them or from the left side of them. Which side? It would be the side, I personally would choose the side that is being favored by the cameras that are out here. If I put key light on the other side, but then that's the side that's going to be bright. The cameras are going to see the shadowy side. It's like, which side of the moon do you want to see? So choose the side favored by the cameras, 45 degrees, and that means, or if you take a right angle, here straight, my shoulder is pointing 90 degrees off to the side, halfway between those. You're going to, and it doesn't always work out perfectly. It's not always exactly 45 degrees. That light might not cooperate. It might be 40 degrees. It might be 50 degrees, but roughly 45. And so, let's just take some of these guys as examples. So our host here is facing this way. All right, and the shoulder is going that way. So halfway between that. And so it's easy if you stand where they are and then look at that angle halfway between and then look up and see what choices you have. You see what light choices you have, and usually the Fresnel light is the way to go. The Fresnel light is the stronger light. It's more, as I was saying, it's more flexible. It has adjustability. There are a lot of things you can do with the Fresnel light that you cannot do with these astrolights. So I'm looking for a Fresnel that's roughly 45 degrees, in that direction. And so I've identified it. Looking at my lighting plot, I can see that his key light appears to be number 6. And so I would say to my, lighting assistant, or, I'm not sure what title she wants to be called, but anyway, I would say to Andrea, hey, Andrea, can you bring up number 6? And assuming that our mics have been turned on up here, that's what she would do. She would fade up number 6. Now, usually you start with it full strength, and that's so that, you can aim it, you can see where that light is going, and so on and so forth. And so you would get up on the ladder and adjust that. So let's try that. And we want to make sure this ladder is anchored on the floor. Some people don't bother and it starts moving on them. So as you can probably see, the ladder is aiming towards the set. This is also a good thing to do, good practice. Don't have your ladder sideways where you're having to lean sideways. That's not safe. Also, aiming towards the set, you can really see what your lighting is doing. So you get behind your light and start by loosening the 2 knobs on the sides. And they're kind of like this, like the one on the left goes clockwise, the one on the right is also going clockwise. So your hands are doing like that. So you loosen those, and then you loosen the light. You tilt it up and down. You swivel it left and right, because it's like it has arthritis. When it sits here for a while, it gets all stiff, and so it's hard to adjust. It's going. So loosen it up, and then you can aim it at your subject's chest. You aim it at their torso, and once you think you have it at their torso, you can lock your knobs. Now, I've done this a while. For people who've done it a while, they can just tell. They can see with their eye where that light is going. Other people, maybe it's a little harder. If you're just starting out, I'm not going to assume that your eye is going to be able to pick that out effectively. So what you could do is you could have someone else go up onto the set. I'll demonstrate that as well in a moment. And they can run their hand around that subject up and down and left and right to figure out where the light is centered. So where is that light spotted? Because the light will have a little hot spot. Now right now you're probably not going to see it too well because I have a diffusion gel. So let me take the diffusion off. And there we go. Now we can see it better. So he can tell me, oh, okay, tilt it down, or pan it left, or pan it right. He can instruct me. Tilt it up a little? All right. How's that? Looks pretty good? Good. Okay, I'm going to lock it down. So other things that we do are, after we adjust the position of the light so that it is centered on the torso, we then have to decide how strong it is and what area it's covering. And so what we're going to do is we ask the person on the lighting board to spot, which means make it more intense, or flood the light. So I will say, could you flood out light number 8 a little bit?
All right. So yeah, I'm over here at light number 8, so I just selected it. It's highlighted now. And then if I come over to the screen, there's a button that says Controls. I hit that button that says Controls. There's a button that says Param for parameters. I select that. And then there's this little button here that has a number on it. It might be a little too fuzzy for you guys to see. But if I just press and hold on that number and I go up, that means I'm spotting the light. And then if I go down, that means I'm flooding it. So here I am again. Here's me spotting it. This is it all the way spotted.
So she is able to make it softer or more intense. Usually we have found that the Fresnel lights look pretty good as key lights when the number is roughly around somewhere between 150 and 165. There's a scale on the lighting board that's like goes up to, I think it's 255 or something like that. So roughly around 160 is a good sweet spot. And so yeah, I will often just say, hey, okay, let's take it to the sweet spot, and she knows what I'm talking about. And it looks pretty close. And then we can go from there, just make it either more intense and spotted or more flooded. Also, we have to decide where the light is falling on the set. What area is it hitting on the set? Sometimes you don't want it to go broad. Oftentimes you don't want it to go broad. You don't want it, for example, if you're planning on doing lighting on your cyclorama curtain, which we are, you don't want your key lights hitting the curtain because they will wash it out, and your effect for your cyclorama curtain, your color effect, is going to get washed out. And so you want to try to limit where your key lights are falling, and that's one of the purposes of these barn doors, is to do that. And they rotate also, so you can match the angle that you need it to fall upon. You know, sometimes you want that to be parallel with the curtain, for example. And so you're going to use your barn doors. There's top and bottom and side ones. And so it's up to you to decide how much to spread that light. So sometimes there's a large area you're covering, and so therefore you're going to want the beam to be wider. And you're going to probably also want your barn doors to be, at least the side ones, to be open wider. All right, so now we're going to look at some large area lighting for a variety show. Similarly, it's bright. It's what you call high key lighting. So there's a lot of key light. The area is large. There's a band back there. So quite a bit of lighting had to be done. Now the host in the foreground there, he's the main guy. He's got to get the most attention. So we need him to be the brightest. And also the lighting is even on him. It takes work to get your key lights to be nice and even. And you have to anticipate the area that he is going to be performing in. So take that into consideration and light accordingly. Now he's also got some nice backlight on him. It has an amber gel, a little bit of a glow, a little golden edging on him, making him stand out from the bluish background. The bluish background is on purpose, you know, it's like that's another way to draw attention to people, to create a contrast, not just with the key to fill ratio and things like that, but also with color. So if your subject is kind of golden, kind of on the yellowish side of the spectrum, then your background would be good if it was more blue or purple or something like that that can contrast, as this gentleman is. As you can see, he's got a nice bronze kind of lighting on him, and the background was made more bluish. You know, but it does help to think this through. And if you're going to do a show at CanTV, definitely helps to do a practice session before your actual show, so you can do a run through with some of these concepts and see how they're actually playing out, how do they actually work, and how long does it take to set that up. So there's a lot to it. It takes time. There are also more features than we have time today to talk about on the lighting board. We're gonna just say goodbye then, and thanks for watching, everybody. So take care.